though, as sad as it sounds. It's not going to be, but I think certainly when I look at BLG's composition, they're trying to play this front to back style where you've got this big beefcake in the volley bear at the front, trying to pair with this Lilia, who would be just be a nuisance running around the front of the fight. You've got Leona, who's going to be setting up for this Kaisa and trying to set the Syndra up so she can get multiple spears onto the back line. And when I look at WE, I mean, again, like Orianna and Aphelios very much enjoy these front to back style of fights, but you don't really have a tank now on the side of
WE have been playing across the course of this tournament so far. Even though we know Breathe is the kind of player that does want to shine individually and is quite happy to look for individual plays, I'm expecting him to play much more of this team-oriented style. We've seen him roaming away from the top lane to try and get involved in the fights without using his TP.
You definitely... I personally think you've got like two options there. You can go for this more teamfight orientated style, but certainly it'll be Jax trying to come in on a flank to see if he can get the counter-strike off. Yeah. But I think as the game goes on, their best bet is probably just to try and keep the wave clear from Shanks and Jomung and just have this Jax scale into this massive side lane threat. I think from the get-go, we'll see Beishang playing very heavily towards this top side. The Orianna doesn't really offer too much in early game skirmishes, same as we talked about with the Aphelios on the bottom side. So Beishang will more than likely be trying to use this pressure that the Jax has in this super favorable matchup to unlock himself and try and already start the snowball going for Breathe. So he has these opportunities to figure out, hey, look, do I just opt into a full split push here? Or can I use this advantage to push in a wave and then group with the team?
Yeah. I'm actually really curious about this whole composition from WE, not because I don't like the composition in some way, but more just like stylistically, the difference in this composition versus standard WE from 2020, right? And obviously they've changed a couple of players, so you expect the style to change a little bit. But realistically, there's a win condition here where if the Jax does become the late game threat that you're talking about, he's a terror in the side lane, no one can actually match him, right? So that's a win condition in of itself. Hang on, we do have a little bit of a 2v2. They're going to back away. But the thing about that is, it doesn't work. Split push comps don't work if you fall behind. And WE are kind of notorious for falling behind early. So they need to show presence in the laning phase and not lose the early skirmishes because they don't have the big team fight wombo combo to just pull them back into the game at 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing here for WE is that like they do have clear places they can play around. We talked about already through Breathe. Already getting some fantastic trades onto Demon in this top side of the map. And you can look at where Beishang's pathing already. He's going to be looking for a bot side clear, moving up towards this top side. We'll probably forego Krugs into a top side gank, and that way he can protect Shanks, allow Shanks to try and trade aggressively here, as you can see in the mid lane, and then also keep Breathe available, so Breathe is able to use these advantages that he has.
We'll see if they're going to be able to get Breathe that lead for himself and get him in a position where he can be the dominant force on the top side of the map. Certainly, if we do get the situations where everybody's grouping up and going in these 5v5s, you start to lean the way of BLG unless there's a pick, unless someone gets caught out of position, or Shanks pops up. Because let's bear in mind, we've got a Orianna here with a big shockwave with Jomung's ult following that up as well. There's a huge amount of potential in a team fight, but it does rely on individual play to set that up. It's not as simple of a team fight.
I think it's very difficult, though, as WE to get Shanks to pop off. You don't win the mid-jungle 2v2. The Syndra does far better in these early skirmishes and sets up very, very nicely for this Lilia to land the watch-out Eep. And that's kind of where a lot of that damage is going to come from. Burst out one member of WE and you can take care of the second one after. So I think to get Shanks ahead, it's going to be a bit of a tall order. Maybe if they go for these early fights around Dragon, he might be able to scoop up one or two, but I'd imagine it would rely on a couple of mistakes coming through from BLG when it comes to positioning and the likes.
Yeah, I can understand that. Jomung's going to be able to grab an early Scuttle Crab for himself, which is not something that we see very often. The first round of Scuttle Crabs being taken by the bot lane, but found an opportunity, pushed out the wave, and moved on up. So that's a nice little advantage that Jomung will find for himself individually here. And it does mean that, you know, Aphelios, even though it is this late game AD carry that everyone talks about, in the lane, he's no slouch either. I think people often forget that Aphelios, especially with the right weapons in place, he could be a lane terror.
especially against these short-range AD carries like the Kai'Sa, who have to come into his range to deal the damage. The biggest issue with Aphelios is just range. Like, if you're against the Caitlyn, it kind of sucks, but against the Kai'Sa, you're kind of free to do what you want.
Oh, nice hook here onto the Leona of Shinmo, but they can't do too much to follow up on this one. Obviously, Graves, fairly short range, so even though he gets lanterned in, can't really go under the tower at this early stage of the game.
I'm keeping my eyes on this mid lane matchup, though. You can see, like, just how much trading is going on. Both mid laners opting in towards the biscuits and this corrupting pot, probably taking time off top as well. They really want to be trading as effectively as possible. Doran's ring even picked up by Shanks on the second back. You got the Tier and the Dark Seal coming in from CLX. They're very much like looking to try and trade as quick and as fast as possible and see if they can get an advantage through that. Which means that if I'm either jungler, like if I come in at the right time, I can heavily swing this matchup in either one side. But you're more looking on CLX to overextend to give WE the opportunity to go for that.
And I think it's... I want to mention the other solo lane as well in the top lane. I've been quite impressed by Demon so far, because obviously we're talking about that matchup being like... Jax obviously will get incredibly strong and will be able to win out that 1v1. But Volibear in the early levels, pre-6, is actually going to be able to find some reasonable trades if he finds the right opportunity. If he can get the stun down while Counter-Strike is on cooldown, if he can get his combo off and use his shield, he can trade super effectively. Nice ult there from CLX just to try and force Shanks out of lane here.
Yeah, and it'll buy a bit of time here for CLX as well. He's a little bit healthier, has a couple of pots on the go as well, so he has the opportunity now to potentially shove in this mid lane, get a nice tempo back for himself, and trying to just use the advantages that they have in waves to find a bit more advantage in and of himself. Looking again, as you were saying at the top lane though, Demon, it's very difficult as the Volibear to find those opportunities. Yes, you can definitely find them. It's just that they're few and far between, because Breathe has just so many opportunities to escape. He's got the leap strike to get away, and he's going to be the one that's dictating the pace of it. So Breathe can take these advantageous trades and then just back off, and it's very difficult for Demon to do anything because he's got to try and run him down, and suddenly you're overextended, and then Breathe can follow up as we're seeing right now.
And then he does exactly this. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the only reason I brought it up is because you're completely right. If Breathe plays it correctly, it's difficult for Demon to find those opportunities. But there's a couple of times now we've seen on camera where Demon does find the opportunity to get a favorable trade. And those little lapses in judgment from Breathe are what Demon has to find to get any breathing room in this lane.
The hardest thing for Demon in this is that, like, how do you build? Because as Demon, personally, I'm thinking, right, I need to be a team fighter here. I shouldn't know.
No, he's pretty tanky. He is on that Leona. I think he's going to be okay on this one.
Going back to my point anyway, like, Demon needs to kind of build for more like the Sunfire Aegis to be the tank in these team fights, but he'd love to build the likes of the Triforce and that for lane. Nice deal from Best there. But he wants to be, for a team fight perspective, able to go much more towards the Triforce and be able to fight back against, maybe even a Divine Sunder, just to fight back against Breathe, but you're not going to have that opportunity, and you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place where it's, okay, well, as Demon, I've got to build for the team here. I got to take an L on the lane, but that really sucks because you're going to see that CS open up as Breathe is able to just build purely for the 1v1 and have a fantastic time anyway in team fights.
We'll see if he is going to build for the 1v1. I would expect that he will go more for the kind of team fight tank build. Generally speaking, when you're drafting something like a Volibear, it's more of a team decision. I don't think that many players are individually I really want to try and carry on Volibear this game.
He is going for the Sunfire Aegis. You can see it with the Ruby Crystal there, but it's not the nicest of times for just the lane state.
Yeah. Well, he does have a bit of support here because you can see Shinmo has roamed on up. I wonder if they're looking at trying to start the Herald for themselves. It has been warded. Breathe moved over to drop that. Oh, that ward is so nice.
Oh no, that's
completely denies the control ward.
Yeah, I mean, that's so for anyone who doesn't know, it's mid to mid when it comes to control wards. So if you cannot see the middle of that ward, it's not going to be picked up by the control ward. And very nice positioning there. I mean, literally anywhere else in that pit, he would have been fine. It's just because it's tucked in behind that wall that they don't see it.
Really nicely done there by Breathe to know that that's the case. And it's like, okay, if they just control ward at the front of the pit, fair enough, you got me. But if they do try and get a cheeky one in the corner there, I'm going to be in a good position. So nice one there from Breathe. And it's good to see these players actively thinking about this stuff and not just autopiloting these games, but really you know, bringing their A game.
Yeah, exactly. I think both teams, honestly, are kind of surprised that there was a ward there, because Beishang, you can see him trying to sweep through. I don't think they spotted best, because that's the downside of that ward, is that you're actually going to be completely blind to everything on the left of the pit. It's only if they're to start it up, but WE, anyway, in a better position here. They're going to be the ones that start it up as bot side.
Flash forward from Best here. Forces a flash out of Jolmung. I'm kind of surprised to see... I guess he just wanted to brute force the play. If he does get the sleep, then Abel gets the ult as well, so maybe just trying to make that happen.
It's trying to make this cross-map play happen. You can see that they shoved in mid, drew Oriana back in towards that mid lane, and then they want to collapse on the spot side, make sure that you're missing this CS as Jolmung, and you can get a couple of plates. So it's not going to answer right now for the Rift Herald with the plates that you're guaranteed to get off that, but at least it's something they're trying to do to answer back for giving over the Rift Herald.
Yeah, it felt a little bit desperate though, didn't it? Like, Best really tried to brute force that play, just like shoehorning it into the hole, but it was very much a square peg.
I think the plan was for the Killer Instinct to come through from Abel and try and burst him down, but I think he was just barely out of range and wasn't able to follow up off of the sleep, and I think that's what caused it. Once that cleanse came through, they were done with it.
The sleep never happened, right, because of the cleanse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that was the plan, and unfortunately just that cleanse meant that they weren't able to follow up in the way that they expected to.
This is a no-game zone for you, BLG, unfortunately. Cleanse is in the way. Ruins everything.
Oh.
But
sorry, I've spotted this is actually a new build that's come through on Lilia. It's the Moonstone Renewer. So because of Lilia's passive, every time that ticks, she counts as she's in combat, and you get a bunch of healing off this Moonstone Renewer, and it works super well with compositions like BLG have, where you've got a bit of range in your comp, because you can use the Lily E, you've got the Syndra stuns, you've got this Kaisa poke as well, where you can just continuously kind of whittle down your opponents, and any poke that you take back is just being constantly healed through the Moonstone Renewer. It's a really interesting build, and you end up doing quite a bit of damage.
So what you're telling me is Riot have made Lilia Ocean Soul.
Yes. Yeah, pretty much.
That's not okay, Dan.
That increases over time the longer she's in combat. So the more her ticks she gets, the more it heals. It's kind of silly.
That sounds obnoxious, but I guess we'll find out, because obviously you are sacrificing damage to build that, so we'll see how it goes. I'm curious to see.
It's not that much damage you're sacrificing. Like, you're going to be surprised, like, she's still going to hurt, and you just get this healing. Like, it's a really, really nice build for her, and a nice adaptation that we've seen come through from, like, the old, like, Rift Makers or Leandri's Anguish.
Yeah. Alright, well, here we go. Fight is underway. The sleep comes on through. Nice hook coming out from Missing while he's asleep there, but Shanks getting locked down, will be finished off, and the shockwave fizzles before it can go through. Shinbo trying to bully Beishang away. He's going to take the blast cone, but there's a lantern there, and we're going for the fight. Breed comes into the back of this one, but the counter-strike doesn't hit onto anyone. Aphelios ult burns through, but can't quite finish the kills. It's enough, though, to take the dragon for WE.
Yeah, they do give over the kill, but WE managed to just about eke out the dragon. A little bit dicey for a little bit there, but able to get a nice flank coming in from Breathe. He gets on towards some key members and forces BLG away. And at the end of the day, you've still got the Rift Herald here for WE. They're going to pop that down in the bot lane just before turret plates are going down as well. So this is a big influx of gold going over towards them. Plus, getting some of these dragons means that around that 20-minute mark, when you've got like an item and a half coming through for the Aphelios, he's completed that Kraken Slayer. You've got this Luden's Tempest plus a little bit more for the Oriana, where you're starting to get online for WE. You've got those soul points coming in, and they can actually look to fight.
Yeah. Sorry, I just saw a really funny interaction where Missing obviously wanted to move away to give all of the tower gold to the other two guys, but he'd already autoed the tower. So he ended up moving away, so the Demolish doesn't hit on the low armor plates, and then he hits the Demolish on the high armor final plate. Anyway, let's look at the fight.
Yeah, you're gonna see. Look, they just destroy Shanks. Missing does get a nice hook, which maybe was able to keep Shanks alive a little bit longer. But here we go. You got Shinmo low, nice play coming through. Demon gets stuck. Like, it's really nice to see WE just how they're approaching this fight so nice and slowly, just making sure that they're able to abuse the damage and the tankiness of their front line versus the likes of Demon and Shinmo that had already been burst out.
Alright, well, we are going to see the Gale Force coming out from Beishang. We've been seeing a lot of Shield Bow here in Demacia Cup. Obviously, this Gale Force is kind of the most prevalent build in solo queue right now for Graves, ever since the nerf to Eclipse for ranged champions. So I'm excited to see what Beishan can do. I'm a little bit surprised, Dagda. I'm curious. I want to get your take on this. What do you think about Smite Ignite with Gale Force? That seems like a match made in heaven, no?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly strong. I think the damage and the attack speed, the crit chance, everything that you get from Gale Force is just super nice. Plus the ability to reposition on Graves is just so damn strong. Plus the damage that comes out from it. Like, you just end up with so much burst damage that can come through so incredibly quickly. And as you said, if you add an Ignite into the mix, it's just so nice. But I think for this particular matchup where there's so much CC you need to avoid, you need the flash.
Jomung's in big trouble here. He's going to be stunned up. Does get on the lantern, though, and gets himself out to safety. In comes Breathe to try and disrupt this fight a little bit. Shanks on the sidelines currently still has Shockwave. That's one kill going the way of Breathe. Walks away with his life. Solar Flare's not going to do too much for this one, and Shinmo falls as well. Felio Assault goes wide, but it doesn't matter because another kill comes through for Jomung. There's a stopwatch available for missing, and it means that WE get a clean fight.
I am so happy to see this WE team coming together. Like, I had such high hopes for this roster when I saw it on paper, and they're looking so good together. Their team fighting is on point. They've now got super clear identities for a lot of their players where they just understand where they need to be positioned, how to approach these team fights together. Like, it is just beautiful. And you get this big engage coming through from Demon, but already missing position, back buying space for Jomung here, puts down the box after getting the hook onto Demon. And then they're like, wait a second, we can actually go in again. Again, this front line from BLG isn't particularly tanky right now, and we have these massive advantages off the items with the likes of the Gale Force coming through from Beishan and the Kraken Slayer completed for the Aphelios. Like, we're in a good position to take these fights.
Yeah, really good stuff coming out from WE. And, you know, we always talk about WE when they're fighting around the mid game. That's when they are at their strongest, and that seems to be true even with this composition that isn't the classic WE kind of mid-game wombo combo that you expect from them. Like, they're still very much comfortable to go with Breed on these flanks instead of being off in the side lane trying to pressure. He's very much all about roaming down now, getting these flanks on the Jax, causing a bit of chaos during the fights.
And you can see as well, the Divine Sunder is going to help with that. Now, this has become the standard build for Jack because Jax has so much mixed damage that the Mythic passive of the Magic Pen and the Armor Pen is so incredibly nice on him. But it also means that he does end up quite tanky, so he's more than able to join in these fights, especially if you end up going towards something like a Asterix Gauge second, or even honestly the Blade of the Rune King second, just with the lifesteal that you're able to get. You can do so much work in these team fights comparatively to the old Triforce build that Jax used to go.
So Drake's coming up in 12 seconds here, and Dagda, it's an Infernal Soul. There's an Aphelios right there. We've all seen Aphelios with Infernal Soul before. We've all seen Orianna Shockwaves with Infernal Soul. This is not something that BLG could afford to give up at this point. They're still relatively close in gold, and they know it. They're going to be moving on in here. Missing just trying to zone them away, but the Drake is already going to be gone. They're too late to the plate, and they're going to engage after the fact. Shinmo goes in, but Breathe's here to answer for this one. Shinmo will die. It's Beisheng to grab the kill as Demon now getting chased down, ults away. The bear charging out to freedom. But it's a kill and a dragon, and WE are happy with that.
And the biggest issue here for BLG is that they have fallen behind, and they haven't been able to pick up these mythic items. Mythic items are so powerful at the moment that when you do get this one item breakpoint essentially from them, your champion takes on a new lease of life. Shockwave.
Oh, Abel's in trouble. Oh, the burn is not quite enough. Oh my days. You should be thanking your lucky stars, Abel.
Definitely, that was insanely close, but this is the power that you've just hit for WE. Everyone has their mythic item completed. When you look across the board over at BLG's side, you still don't have one for CLX. You do the Kraken Slayer for Abel, but there's no real setup that's coming through that allows him to get on towards the more vulnerable backline and burst them out. So overall, BLG's team fights just haven't really come together yet.
Not so far. It's still possible. They still do have this composition that can win out in the 5v5s if they can get that kind of front-to-back fight. But the problem is, WE aren't giving them a conventional front-to-back fight. They're setting up far earlier than BLG are able to, and with Breathe constantly just jumping into the middle of everyone, it causes so much chaos, and it spreads this fight out, so BLG can't just set up with a formation like they want to.
Exactly, and that's the big issue here is when you look at the likes of Breathe, although conventionally he's not really like the frontline kind of style, when you've got that counter strike, it makes it very difficult for Abel to be able to do anything. The Kai'Sa, although does have the missiles that can do quite a bit of work, she's still heavily reliant on those auto attacks to proc the passive to get a huge amount of burst damage off. And she's incredibly short range, so in a lot of these fights, Breathe is having access to Abel, to CLX, because he's gotten into these really good positions. But unfortunately for BLG, they're just not having that same look, and because you don't really have any sort of dive buddy for the likes of Abel, like, you're not really getting on to the key members that we talked about.
Yeah. I've just noticed on the scoreboard there as well, Beishang has grabbed himself a QSS very early in this game. That's a lot of respect being given to best 16 there with the sleep. But it's also, I think, a little indication that Beishang is feeling himself right now. He's like, if I can move around in this fight, I'm going to take over. So keep your eyes on Beishang in this next skirmish, because I've got a feeling he's about to pop off.
I agree, and I think it's also a nice way of shutting down what would be the only real win condition of BLG here, where the ability to get the long range sleep coming through from from best 16, Lilia, I don't know why I blanked her name there. Then you can follow up with the CC chain coming through from either the Leona or the Syndra. Like, that pick potential, that very long range pick potential, is kind of the best bet for BLG to try and get back into this game, especially if they can get onto the likes of Jomung or Shanks, who are caught out of position. So having the QSS just minimizes the targets that you can make that pick potential on, and as you said, like, giving them a little bit more freedom in these team fights as well.
So we'll have to see how the next few minutes are going to pan out. This has been a low-action game, but I feel like it's been still a really interesting game between these two teams. And you can feel how important this one is. To remind anyone that doesn't know, this game could well be the decider for the entire group. We've got a TP coming down as Breathe is going to find himself in a 1 versus 3, but he's fine. He flashes away and everything's gravy.
That's the picks, though, that BLG are trying to make happen. This is what they need to get back into this game. And unfortunately for them, they just don't quite have enough tools to follow up as quick as they would like. I've actually seen a very similar composition run prior to this, where instead of the Kai'Sa, you work this composition with Jhin. Because then you've got like a very similar style of, okay, cool, I've got this long range setup with the Lilia. I can follow up with another long range with the Deadly Flourish, which buys time for CLX and Shinmo to get in position. It seems like with the amount of maneuverability, especially on someone like Breath, they're just not being able to lock him down long enough to make these plays happen. And now you're investing TPs, you're investing summoner spells. This is where you're investing huge amounts of time and effort to make these picks, and he's just slipping out of your hands.
So I have a question, Dagda, and I don't know, I'm going to test your intricate knowledge of items here, and this might be too specific. Or maybe we'll come back to this one. Shank's going to be locked up, does get out, but he's finally gone down. CLX the one to grab the kill here. That's a huge pick to start this one off with Breathe. TPing into the play, but WE don't look like they're done just yet. Bear in mind, Jomung is still here on Aphelios. They've got a TP in 30 seconds from Shanks. They would love to get this Infernal Soul for themselves. If Beishang can get the steal, this is worth dying for, but it looks like they've decided it's time to back away.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to get in. Brilliant job from BLG to find the pick that they needed onto Shanks and collapsing magnificently there. I'm still hovering here, though.
Yeah.
WE, you don't need to fight this. There's no objective.
Yeah, WE always need to fight everything. That's how WE works. Here we go. They found the play onto Shinmo here. TP comes out from CLX. He's going to have a shockwave available. Missing is low, but Abel's been locked up and taken down. Double kill now for Jomung, who does fall for his efforts, but beautifully done. And in with the shockwave, CLX falls as well, and WE make it happen.
Oh, that is not the play from BLG. They try and make this team fight work, but they're very spread out. Again, Abel trying to see if he can get onto these squishier members, which you do want to do as Kai'Sa, but not having the support there means that WE are easily able to turn back onto him. They get the kill, and although Dragon went the way of BLG, Baron on the cards for WE.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. In goes Demon with the 1v3. Breathe, luckily for him, has a stopwatch, but oh, the Lantern! They get away with it! How do they keep getting away with it, Dagda?
That was by the skin of his teeth. Baron will be stopped, though, so at least a nice TP there from Demon to shut that play down, but that was a little bit greedy coming through from WE. That could have ended a lot worse, but we're going to get a replay of this fight, so With the position here, like, you've got this squishy front line of Abel and Best who are trying to play towards this back line. Breathe just keeping Best at bay means that Abel, he's just separated completely from the team. Maybe there's an opportunity to go in with the killer instinct and try and make things work, but as the rest of BLG try and support Abel, they end up overextended and this whole thing falls apart. It's just BLG, we talked about, hey, they're a front to back style of team. They're just coming in and flanking their opponents, which means it's easy for WE to split them up and go for the squisher members.
And I feel like as well WE are playing the map exceptionally well. Like, you see BLG positioned on the dragon, WE's like, okay, we're just going to run down mid lane. You have to come into us at a weird angle, in a weird way where you don't really want to be fighting these kind of on-the-spot team fights, right? You want to be able to set up outside of an objective, be in a right formation, and like it wants to be a very prim and proper team fight, you know? It wants to be that classic 5v5 that you think of. But WE aren't ever allowing them to have that situation, and in classic LPL fashion, they're causing these long and drawn-out team fights. Missing now getting caught on his own next to Baron Pit, but with Aftershock, he's real tanky. Breathe in to distract for the team. He's not so squishy himself and walks away with his life. So Seed goes by, and WE get away with it once more.
They do just about manage to escape. Damage not quite there to even pick off Missing, who's gone for the Shirelles. He's not exactly the tankiest of Threshes right now, so that kind of gives an indication of where we're at from BLG's damage perspective. And BLG now looking to threaten this Baron. They know that they've got multiple members of WE low. They know that a lot of these big key ultimates are down, whereas they've got a few fair available for themselves.
Yeah, I'm still not super convinced though. They will be looking to peel off and team fight, I'd assume here. 4,000 on the Baron. It's time to push in here. Demon sticking on, tanking that one for now. In goes Breathe on the backline. Demon ults on top of him. Breathe should go down here. That's one kill for BLG. They are off the Baron. It's reset at this point. Shanks gonna zip away on the Lantern. WE just making sure that the Baron can't go down, but they do lose the top lane.
You're free to go for these sorts of plays though as BLG. That Moonstone Renewer that we talked about, healing up people a lot. You don't have to be in damage with champions, you just have to be in combat. So being able to get a decent amount of damage there. Now though, they can move over towards this dragon, which is spawning in just over a minute. So BLG getting the resets, buying their items, like this is going to be the bloodbath that we kind of were hoping that Baron was going to be.
Yeah, and now this next Drake is all important, right? WE on Soul Point. If they can get an Infernal Soul, this game will be all but over. However, as you said, Breathe currently down. He'll have Teleport available. It's now down to like Missing and Beisheng to see if they can get further into the jungle here, get some deep wards that could be used for a TP flank.
Yeah, you can see though BLG have spread out quite a bit here, just tossing out a couple of these Swirl Seeds to see if they can land on towards someone. Actually, I want to correct something I said during that Baron Pit. The Moonstone Renewer only works with champions. My bad, it doesn't work with the Dim, but he had hit someone with the Swirl Seeds, so it meant that he was still healing up quite a bit for the likes of Demon who was tanking that. But either way now, BLG moving back in here. They're going to be the ones in full control of River, which is perfect for them because this long-range poke, being able to try and pick off multiple members of WE before they come in, or at least get them low, is going to do great.
Well, the Dragon's been started here. BLG already on the scene, but WE moving in to make sure that they can't get this uncontested here. Stun onto Missing. It's BLG very stacked up. Look towards the Shockwave from Shanks. That could turn this entire fight on its head. Here we go. Smite fight and it's Infernal Soul going the way of WE. And now the fight as well. Shockwave only onto Shinmo. As you can see, Abel in the backline, but he's totally alone. In goes Demon, but it's too little and it's too late. Breathe escapes on the backline, and it means that WE are looking for a clean ace. CLX alone in the world and flashing into enemy territory, but WE don't care. They've already got everything.
WE have gotten all they could ask for. You're even going to have Shanks trying to see if he can keep CLX away. They're just going to look to shove down this mid lane and see how much of the base they can take.
Beautifully done here from WE. Their team fighting stellar as always. They can go towards Baron if they want. In the meantime, Breathe is pushing in the bottom lane. He'll be able to take at least one tower for himself. He has TP just in case anything happens elsewhere on the map, but I realistically don't think BLG can do anything for the next couple of minutes now. And this Infernal Soul ain't going anywhere.
This is this is now WE just very much in control. They had the composition they want to scale into their items as well, but I mean, Kraken Slayer, Ruin's Hurricane there for Jomung. You've got the Archangel Staff completed alongside Ludens Tempest. Both these carries are incredibly strong, not to mention Breathe coming online on the top side as well. And you can see it in this team fight. Demon tries to get into the pit here, tries to get on towards the squishier members, and with this sleep, I thought, right, this is where we're going to have the team fight victory for BLG. But Breathe is wreaking havoc in the backline this whole time. So the support system that Abel had is suddenly gone, and now he's left on his lonesome as everyone comes back out of the sleep and is a little bit angry.
Yeah, just a tiny little bit here, and any kind of anger that comes on through is only going to be made worse with an Infernal Soul, because that's now flaming anger. Burning rage, if you will. We are getting to a point, though, where BLG are against the ropes now. They've only got one tower remaining outside of the inhibitors here. We're at this stage where BLG maybe have to start to look towards desperation plays.
I mean, we kind of already saw that from them, right? Where they're committing TPs to try and make these picks to get back into it. It's going to take a lot now to get back into them. As you said, like 12,000, 11,000 gold lead for them as they start to push in again. You can't really have this Volibear go up against the Jax anymore because he's got the Divine Surrender and Blade of the Rune King. Like, he's in a really strong position right now. Even in the mid lane, they're free to just essentially keep pushing, use these Baron creeps to at least keep the pressure there as these side lanes get to work for WE.
So now they get to just set up and siege, and this is going to be incredibly difficult to deal with. Interesting that Breathe is actually over with the team instead of being off in the side lane, because it's going to be CLX down on the bottom side matching with Shanks right now. But realistically, WE can quite happily set up with 3 people in one lane, and then each of their solo lane is spreading out, just making sure they're getting maximum efficiency out of this Baron.
And look, they've already taken all the outer towers. It's just kind of, okay, let's hang on for a little bit. Let's take this slow. We don't need to force anything too much, especially with that Elder Dragon in 2 minutes and 40. We'll just make sure that we're not getting caught by some of this long-range CC we're talking about, and allow the creeps to do the work for us.
In the meantime, Breathe doing Jax things, gets to do some serious damage on the bottom side of the map. Tower taken. And then when everyone's distracted by him on the bottom side, the rest of the map starts to fall apart. Very nice little Zhonya's from Shanks. He will go down, though. Taken down in the end. I think the Q followed him through there. Demon the target as the mid inhib goes down. WE losing a player, though. Does mean that this siege will end. Can BLG find anything off of the back of it? The answer is no. They're falling like dominoes. And CLX has nowhere to run either. Abel, the last man standing. And this is going to be the end of the game. He tries to make something happen, but Beisheng with the triple kill. These towers have nothing left in them, and WE take the victory.
A well-earned victory for WE as well. They played this game so cleverly and have been able to get themselves the soul, the Barons, and the victory.
So with that then, WE now managing to put themselves on a 3-1 scoreline, which means they are now tied with BLG in the, or like pseudo IG Young roster coming in. It was very hyped up coming into the tournament. They need to hope that that hype was realistic and expected, because they need IG to win this one. If IG wins, they go through smooth sailing. They don't really want to go into these tiebreakers. Jomung, though, topping the damage.